Story 1. I was sitting outside of an airport waiting for my brother to pick me up. This strikingly beautiful woman ended up sitting near me while on her phone, just having a casual conversation. About a minute into it, with this charming southern voice, she said, "Well, hell if I know where I am. I'm under a sign that says baggage claim, so I'm baggage, come claim me." Needless to say, in spite of my attempts to hide my laughter by burying my face in my book, I hear her half giggling, saying, "Oh, I see you over there laughing at me, mister. It was just a wonderful random interaction." Story 2. When I held the door open for a mother and her daughter, she asked if I was single. I said yes. She responded with, "I'm too handsome to be single." Made my year. Story 3. As we were breaking up, she looked me in the eyes, crying and smiling, then said, "Sober looks the best on you." She gave me our last kiss, and then she was gone. Story 4. 1985. Senior kindergarten. We were using little Crayola scissors to make paper snowflakes. I unfolded my snowflake and it all fell apart. I couldn't understand what I did wrong. I showed the teacher, and she said, "Well, I wonder why." I also wondered why. I was 7 years old, but I wasn't stupid. I understood sarcasm when I heard it. I was absolutely furious, still mad at her decades later. Story 5. You do realize we want to keep you, right? My best friend's girlfriend, when I was in a phase of depression and heavy drug abuse, probably saved my life. I thought nobody cared about me, and if even I myself didn't care about me, I might as well damage my body for some pain relief and fun. Story 6. My first wife, an alcoholic, when she decided to drunkenly tell me why she drinks during the day while I'm at work and she's supposed to be watching the kids. To spite you and the kids. My second wife, a covert narcissist, when she caught me deleting texts to a therapist, and I refused to tell her what it was about. "You violated the sanctity of our marriage, you piece of shit. Neither of us are religious." My current girlfriend on dating me. "You are all of my birthday wishes come true." Story 7. You are perfect. Literally everything I have ever wanted in a man. I do not understand why I cannot seem to love you. This is how my first real relationship after a horrible divorce ended, with these words over the phone. It completely demolished my already fragile self-confidence. My ex-wife did not need to utter a single word to destroy me. She started growing distant, spending hours alone in her home office. One day, I knocked on the door. She opened the lock and peeked out. "I have never doubted you love me until now," I said. "Do you still love me?" She lowered her eyes and closed the door without saying anything. After almost a decade of marriage, she was cheating on me with another woman. Story 8. A woman I was seeing opened up to me and said, "My grandfather molested me from a young age and family members knew. Nothing was done because he had money." Story 9. You don't have to earn it. I was in the hospital just under 2 weeks ago after a suicide attempt. One of my closest friends came with me to the hospital and stayed by my side for hours. At one point, I said that I didn't deserve her, that she was doing too much for me and I didn't earn it. She argued with me for a bit, telling me that she loves me and that she's always going to be there for me. So I asked, "What did I do to deserve this?" She said, "You don't have to earn it. I love you no matter what." That was the moment I started coming to terms with the idea that love doesn't have to be earned. It's still completely foreign to me, but I'm working on it. Story 10. I would really like to be with you. Said sincerely by a drunk woman at a party, like 10 years ago. I've been complimented, but never to that level of openness. I think about it often. Story 11. You don't deserve to have a family. Nobody will ever love you. This was not long after I received a paternity test result that showed a 0% match to my 3-month-old daughter. I'd give anything to unhear that. Story 12. You're the definition of husband material. A good friend of mine told me that, and her friend agreed. I was obviously quite flattered when I heard it, but I was not romantically interested in either of them. That compliment gave me a huge confidence boost in my dating life though. Story 13. This will get lost in the thousands of comments, but I want to leave mine. Some years ago, I was depressed and antisocial and did not feel like leaving my home ever. One day, a friend asked me if I wanted to hang out with her and her friends. I naturally said no because I was not feeling like it. She said, "Of course you feel like it. You just don't know it yet." That sentence stuck with me ever since, and I use it as motivation to try out new things. We have been dating for 3.5 years. Story 14. I am not that well endowed, and when a girl pulled down my pants, she said, "What am I supposed to do with that?" Almost 15 years later, I think about it every time I have sex. It hurts. Story 15. You won't graduate college. I had a teacher say this to me. On graduation day from my college, I sent her a message on Facebook of me in my robes, and I just said, "Forget you." Story 16. You cannot make me want to be with you, said by the woman I was married to during her affair. That sentence alone was the push I needed to end my codependency. It was just like one day a switch flipped, and all of a sudden she did not want to be around me anymore. It affected me pretty badly for a while. I tried desperately to win back her affection, but to no avail. Ultimately, I learned that I was not the problem, her boyfriend was. Story 17. I always knew you would be a great father. My ex-girlfriend of 5 years told me this after we broke up. She was my first love, and if life didn't rip us apart, I would have died happy with her. She told me this years later after I met someone else and had 2 daughters. It makes me both proud and sad, but I think about it a lot. Story 18. She left me and I had an industrial accident at work, a laceration to my left forearm. Lots of rehabilitation and challenging experiences. I wouldn't give her money outside of what she got in child support, so she decided I was a useless person. The coldest thing anyone who has ever said, "I love you," to me has said. Story 19. This is not working for me, but you will always hold a special place in my heart. You were the best thing to ever happen to me. It's been about 3 years. I still catch myself thinking about her at least a few times a week. Yeah, I've been single since and have no desire to date anymore. Story 20. Having some dizzy spells, went to the emergency room to get checked out. When the nurse came in to read my chart, she said, "Honey, you have a beautiful electrocardiogram." I was so proud. A 1C wasn't beautiful though. Story 21. You will go as far as your back or your brain will take you. I was 16 and blowing off school. My mom sat on the edge of my bed one night after a particularly bad report card and let me know that I had 2 more years under her roof, and that was all she was able to give me. She would have helped more if she had more, but poverty is what it is. It was a solid life lesson. Story 22. You are too stupid to be a doctor. I was in 6th grade and got a C on my report card from a teacher who openly despised me. I always wanted to be a doctor. Jokes on them, I became an engineer instead. Story 23. You're worth it. One of my friends told me this 4 years ago when she found me with my veins slit, drunk beyond belief, barely making it in college, jobless and desperate, after she took me to the emergency room. I was in bed, completely disconnected, and I didn't want to live. I asked her why she took me to the hospital, and she hit me with that line. We're still friends to this day, and she's like my second sister. Story 24. So it's not still stuck, but early on in my relationship, my wife had said, "Before you, I had a high sex drive." That hit me like a ton of bricks for a long time. It turned out it was just her birth control that took it away. Story 25. Mine doesn't have nearly the gravity of many of these. Still, it's something I remember often. I was on a date. I was talking about myself, and after a while, she stopped me. She said, "You know, I kind of thought you would want to know about me." I realized I had spent the whole time talking about myself. After the obviously poor experience, I really thought about that. She was beautiful, way more stereotypically attractive than I would normally draw. She was a student about to graduate from college in a very cool field. I never finished college and kind of just drift vocationally. I do all right. Still, I realized I was so insecure. I couldn't stop building myself up to make myself feel worthy of the attention. So, I kind of missed out on something. Probably nothing, but she was out with me for a reason, and I did disappoint. Story 26. Years ago, I was hanging out with a good friend of mine a lot. We were always close, but at the time, we were spending a lot of time together and would text each other pretty much all day. At one point, I was hanging out with her and her sister, and my friend had walked out of the room for one reason or another. Her sister just looked at me and said, "I like you a lot better than my friend's recent ex. You guys are such a better match." I didn't ask her to elaborate, but to this day, I feel like I had missed some cues that my friend wanted more. We're still good friends, but that still nags at me from time to time. Story 27. After reading through half of these, I am sorry you all had to hear this sort of thing from someone. Fellow gentlemen, take care of yourself. Mental, physical, and emotional. I'm here to chat if you need. Story 28. From my neurosurgeon, who was sitting in a chair by the foot of my hospital bed waiting for me to wake up. The tumor is back, and there is a mass at the top of your spine. But none of that matters right now. You have leukemia, and that is going to kill you faster than brain tumors. They are taking you to Vanderbilt. They are going to hit you with the biggest treatment they can find because you're young enough to take it. And if you survive that, then we'll talk about brain surgery. Story 29. While referring to the size she prefers, she enthusiastically yelled in her thick Southern accent, "Baby, I want it to hit all 8 sides and tickle my spine." Story 30. I was young, naive, and clingy. She was older and told me she was only supposed to be the cherry on top of my sundae, not the whole sundae. It hurt at the time, but now that I am older, I appreciate that she had the courage to tell me this. It is something I live by now. Story 31. I won't be your girlfriend unless you make $55,000. My dumbass stayed with her for months after that, and now I don't feel as valued without making money. Story 32. You were not supposed to find out. After being caught cheating, I will likely never forget that moment. Nowadays, I am quite thankful for that period of my life. Story 33. One of my 8th grade teachers said this to me, probably one of the best compliments I've ever gotten, paraphrasing because my memory is fuzzy. Some people are smart, some are funny. Very few people have wit, which is the best of both. You're a very witty young man. Story 34. I'll be the best you'll ever get. My first and only girlfriend. Realized later how mentally and emotionally abusive she was. This was over 4 years ago, and I've never had another girlfriend since. Won't lie, it definitely eats away at me, and I wonder if she was right. Edit. Thank you for all the kind comments. Story 35. Financial independence is personal independence. A teacher encouraged me to sign up for a full scholarship to escape my strict household. It was the road to freedom. I moved across the country and support myself quite well now. I owe it all to her. Story 36. Engaged to whom I thought was the love of my life. She said, "I'm going to marry someone who is rich." I asked if she was going to marry me. Well, yeah. I started to find my way away from her that day. Shortly after, I bumped into an old girlfriend who I could never get off my mind. We have been married 27 years now. Never been rich, but she doesn't care. We are made for each other. 2 kids, a house, some old hot rods, a motorcycle, and 2 dogs. Enough happiness to fill a life. From time to time, I still talk with the old girlfriend, and she often says, "I made a huge mistake letting you go. I'm not monetarily rich. We have enough, and my bride and I have each other and our family. Best decision I ever made. Life's not a fairy tale, but having the right partner makes the difficult parts more bearable and gives you the strength to go on." Story 37. When she was mad, she would say almost anything. I was like her ex. She regretted I ever touched her. She was disgusted by me. I don't feel any hurt because I know where it came from, but I remember all of it and more. Story 38. Drunk woman called me on a Saturday night while working and said, "What time do you get off? I've had a bottle of wine already and really need to have sex. What time can you be here?" Suddenly became ill and had to leave work early. Story 39. Why can't you be normal? Was said to me when I was experiencing severe depression and anxiety, and I was naive enough to tell her, my fiancée at the time. I ended the relationship a month later. As a friend, she has since become more understanding and compassionate regarding mental health struggles. However, it was the most hurtful thing a woman who is not related to me has ever said. The nicest thing was when my late great aunt was examining my tattoos. I have lots of silly little things on my arms, and said they were really cute and pointed out a few she liked the most. She was very old school and not into tattoos. But my tattoos are pretty cute, and hearing that from her made me happy. I don't need to prove my masculinity with tough tattoos. Story 40. I was interested in this girl, and she was showing no interest. We were at a party, and I decided to call it quits and head to bed. Her friend walked into the room and told me, "Just because she's not interested in you doesn't mean she wants to be alone." I've never felt so small and used before, and it haunts me to this day. Story 41. Talk to you in a week. Love you most. My mom before she was killed in a traffic accident the day before she was supposed to call. Still waiting for her to call. Every Sunday for the last 7 years. 27 now, and I'm just happy we said our "I love you. Love you most" shenanigans. Story 42. I remember my mom telling me that her life would be better if she had not given birth to me or something along those lines when I was 7 or 8 years old. It's been stuck with me ever since. Story 43. First time I proposed to my wife. "I love you, but you are still languishing on your dissertation." That was the slap I needed to get myself in gear and get to work. Story 44. You go try and have your happy little relationship where you don't fight. Let me know when you find out it doesn't work like that. My mother told me that after I told her that the way she treats my dad is not okay. My girlfriend and I prove her wrong every day so she can eat shit.